All right, everyone. Welcome to the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School Script and Archetypes online course. This is lesson 6, which will involve the script, the last part of the script, which is the synthesis, the third movement of the symphony. And it'll focus on the natal chart angles and the planet Jupiter. And there'll be some discussion a little bit on the houses and the nodes. So today is February 8th, 2015. And if you hadn't yet had a chance to do that, perhaps after the call to go back and watch the pre-recorded video that Daniel and Cayelin did on this course at a live event a couple years ago, which is online on the syllabus. All right, Cayelin, I'm going to change this over to you.
Okay. All right, show my screen. Okay,
There we go.
so you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right.
All right, good. Yeah.
So, Daniel, is there something you want to start out with? Should we start out with questions or with the table, or how do you want to do this?
Well, I would like to actually start out by a couple of things that came up when I was looking at everyone's homework, and just also to emphasize a few things here. First of all, I want to thank everyone who is really getting into this and participating in it at such a deep level. I really love reading through everyone's homework and the way they're integrating this material, which actually is not so, particularly for those of you who are new to this, it isn't so easy to do it when we haven't even done the archetypes yet, you know, to be able to come up with such good imagery. So again, thanks for your efforts and attention. Maybe just a few preliminary things, and then we can go to look at the table that to get a sense of how everyone is connected in the class, pretty much. And that is that I want to start out by talking about something that is confusing, easily confusing, and that would apply to the first movement of the symphony as well as the third movement, which we're looking at now, which is that there is a distinction between the way the job operates and the understanding of the mystery school. They're really not the same thing. This is, on one hand, one of the most unique features of shamanic astrology, and it is the foundation of any reading, is to look at these 144 storylines. Top tier priority, so much more important than anything else. But the house position of the node is not the same as just knowing something about that particular sign. It's a unique concept that has this understanding that in any given tribe there are 12 specific things you can do, or like 12 different contributions to a tribe, or in a university that there are 12 distinct majors you could have within that university. We get the clues for it from the mystery school. We also get the clues from it from the general knowledge of the meaning of a house. And as Cayelin has explained in the module she was teaching, as well as some things I brought up, that the houses in this system, their meanings come directly from the signs, and that's based upon the zodiac archetype. So they are really talking about the same thing, but different expressions. So we're looking at, say, the 6th house. It is connected to Virgo, but the 6th house job is not the same as what you might know about Virgo. Again, we're kind of assuming you might understand in depth the 12 mystery schools, which we haven't even gotten to yet. So I'm really appreciative of everyone's attention on this, but I just wish to emphasize here strongly the difference between So like if somebody has the south node of the moon in the 7th house or the north node of the moon in the 7th house, that's not the same as Libra. Although some of the meanings of it do come from our understanding of Libra. So, and also just to emphasize that the 12 jobs, and in this class we're looking at the job in the rising sign mystery school, so it's associated with current life purpose, okay, it's still less important than the mystery school. It's like 12 different versions of what it is you're coming into the life to investigate. There's some very basic things that are important to remember about once you know the rising sign, and that's actually more important than knowing what house position the north node is in. But that is more important itself than the other factor that I wanted to bring up here at the beginning of our conversation, which is this people trying to get very clear about what it means to have planets near the north node, okay, which we also looked at 2 classes ago, planets near the south node. The meaning of these things has a far less importance than the ascendant or the job in that tribe. It's just another way of adding a few additional flavors. Imagine we're writing a novel, and in the novel we have a plot. You could also say the book that we have a plot line on has an intention. The author has something in mind in the writing of that book, and there's a plot line. That's like the 144 storylines, okay? If you happen to have planets near the north node, that might give clues like, is the main character 6'4" or 5'5"? They're like details, but they're not overriding the larger sense. And that brings us up another factor, which would be, what if there aren't any planets near the nodes? There's nothing negative about it at all. It would be kind of like the person who's writing a novel. And have you ever noticed, I mean, some novelists are just completely obsessive about all the details of the character. Every personality characteristic they have, every quality they have, every, minuscule characteristic of their face or body. Well, other great novelists write books where you have absolutely no idea what that character's like. You make it all up in your mind. It's kind of like that. So there's nothing negative about not having any planets near the node. It just gives us an additional clue. It's nice to have additional clues. It also can be overwhelming to have too many clues. So if you have 4 or 5 things near the north node, I don't really spend a whole lot of time trying to sort that out. I'm way more interested in the understanding of the job and the tribe itself. Okay, so I just that's part of what my opening statements here would be.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
So on the slide that has the synthesis that that we're working with, they're actually listed in level of importance. So the most important, of course, is the ascendant, the personal identity project, or the 12 paths of enlightenment, and then, of course, its opposite point, which creates the relationship axis, and then the angles. So the angles of the chart are most important for determining, what the purpose is, why a person's here, and what they're working on. The house position of the north node is next in line. Jupiter is 3rd. And I'm just noticing that's not on this chart, but the very last thing of importance would be planets with the nodes, and also other factors like the house position of like say where Jupiter is, or where
the moon is, or any of them, yeah, with house positions, yes.
Exactly. So, and when you're getting a first-time reading or you're looking at the chart for yourself, this is designed brilliantly. Daniel came up with a great structure to make it very simple to get what is the core essence, what's the most important factors to tune into first, right away, and what's going to give the most meaning. And then these other factors, so things like planets to the north node or to the south node, are way down the list of importance, and you may not even talk about them. If you are working with a client for quite a while, it might come up. It might not, but it's not super important. It is just good to know that it does give an additional meaning. But especially if you're just beginning with this, not to put too much concern into that piece. It's like you don't have to. All you really need to synthesize is what's the rising sign, what's the house position of the north node. I have often will only briefly mention Jupiter in a first-time reading. And if they're in a Jupiter return, I might go into that a little more deeply. But the two most important factors are, for the current life, is what is rising and what is the house position, what is the job in the tribe, or what is the major in the mystery school. And so if you just give people that information, you've given them gold.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing comes to mind would be the house positions of the planets themselves, which is also, technically speaking, a third movement of the symphony issue. But that in most cases, we already have those themes even before we get to that level of interpretation. The only exceptions that will sometimes show up, which is really similar to sometimes how Jupiter makes a contribution, is that what if a person has, to say, an Aquarius moon or a Sag moon or a Gemini moon, which is completely not about personal relating, and then it shows up in the 7th house. Well, then it's basically saying for sure that in the current life, that moon needs to learn how to do that, that it's being thrown into a dimension that it's not used to. Or another example might be that maybe a person has Aquarius rising, Sag rising, Gemini rising, something which is spacious, independent, adventurous, not householder, and yet then what if they had Jupiter in Libra or Jupiter in Capricorn? So this is why we've, actually because of this class, we've reworded a little bit about Jupiter. And you might want to take a look at the new way we're describing Jupiter. It seems that about 20 years ago or so, I might have made a comment, Jupiter, the fastest path to enlightenment. And that fastest path idea is not entirely wrong. It's just this placing, after many years of working with this, it's not the main emphasis. It's not that it's the fastest path, but rather it's giving a description of what particular way of life, and I'm using the word dharma for that. What is sometimes dharma is interpreted as duty, but I'm looking at it as like one of the ways of life you come into the life to be part of. So like Jupiter and it's the same thing for the rest of the mystery schools. It's Jupiter and Capricorn, Jupiter and Libra, they're more householder. But with the rest of the chart, it's totally a free electron, and then you have Jupiter and Libra, and say, well, gee, maybe you're going to have to also know something about personal relationship also. You're not going to be able to get out of it by just being a renunciate. So that's how those other factors can bring in additional clues. But that's not more important than what you can gather from the storyline, 1 out of 144. And as Cayelin, just to reiterate something you said, not that often we even bring up Jupiter in a first-time reading, although the counseling astrologer is going to be noting Jupiter You know, so like if somebody has Sag rising and Jupiter in Sag, we get a reiteration, like a reduplication of the theme. It really helps us know for sure that we're on the right track in an interpretation when you see something like that. Mm-hmm. And if it's not, I mean, if it's entirely different, well, then that also gives an important clue. Now, another thing that I wanted to bring up that it's foundational for this class. The rising sign, or the storyline for current life purpose, we must remember, is fresh. In almost all cases, it's something new. Unless the moon is similar, unless the moon is the same thing, then in virtually every other horoscope, the theme of the rising sign, the theme of the storyline for current life purpose is something new, and you cannot be expected to know how to do it ahead of time. It's a beginner place, and that gives us the freedom to not be in judgment about whether we're, initially perfect at it or know how to do it ahead of time. We can't. It's like it's a new thing the soul is investigating. So we have to keep that in mind, and then that kind of dovetails into what would be the primary difference between the storyline of your lineage and the storyline of current life purpose, which is the main feature of this class. The storyline of lineage, that's who you have been. So therefore, instincts, habits, attitudes, expectations, addictions, and so on come from there. The storyline for current life purpose is intent. It's intent. It doesn't necessarily at all mean that's how you are, but it's a set of instructions. And we always like to say in shamanic astrology that for most people, I won't say everyone, but for a great majority of individuals, the life intent path, the storyline for current life purpose, is not the path of least resistance. Frequently, to fall back into the lineage is the path of least resistance. And so to actually go forward into the new territory is frequently, and there's an act of courage involved, faith, trust, courage, which is part of intention, actually. A willingness to be in alignment with our intent, which may not be initially easy. So anyway, those are the initial comments I had. Cayelin, let me turn it over to you, because I know there's some things that came up for you as you looked at everybody's homework, and plus we can look at the charts, the overall class chart.
Right. Well, one of the things I'm noticing, and I think it's kind of interesting, is I do not believe that there is anybody in this class who has the moon and rising in the same sign. If I'm wrong about that, let me know, but as I'm recalling from looking at all the charts, and we're going to see some of them now, and anybody who responded to the homework, they definitely didn't have them in the same. So I think that the place to go now maybe would be to look at what people's rising sign and their mystery school and their major in the mystery school is, so that we can kind of get a sense of that and maybe warm up the territory by looking at that and just getting a sense of here. And so I'll put that chart up, and we can maybe just go through them. So you want to start with that, Daniel?
You mean to make comments about them?
Yeah, like we do in our live classes.
Right, right. All right, so we have no Aries descendant, I'm noticing.
Yes.
We have two different Taurus risings, and again, this making commentary on this in depth would not be a good thing for this class, because then that's why we have like a whole class for for the different mystery schools, right?
Mhm.
So in short form, we would say that anyone with Taurus rising is here on the planet to investigate how to bring spirit into matter for the sake of enjoying it. As I always like to say in a very short form, that anyone with Taurus rising is here at this time in history to reinvent the Garden of Eden without the fall, right? So that we don't have to earn or prove any kind of worth in order to feel good. And so the Leo job there is the one whose job it is to radiantly make it up any way she wants in order to demonstrate that pleasure principle, that ability to enjoy the Epicurean life of savoring the best that we can experience of art and intimacy and so on, and beauty. And then the Scorpio job in the same tribe is the member of that group who has the strongest will in order to make certain that it happens. You know, so I mean, both of these members of our group here are emphasizing from what you've learned from Cayelin's module, signs of self-interest. So they're both very strong actional expressions, and that's another factor. The Leo job in any tribe is intended to be solar feminine, and I imagine that we could say the same thing about the Scorpio job. Although Scorpio is not solar per se, it is actional. It's the action principle of Shakti, you know. So anyway, those two, and if I remember correctly, in the homework we saw at least I remember
Anjani.
Yeah, she quite okay.
Oh.
So then we have three Gemini risings, all different jobs, and so you know the Pisces job in any tribe.
Oh, Daniel, you just, I don't know if you can hear me, but you're cutting out a little bit right now, and the video is stopping. So I don't know if your internet connection is not so great right at the moment.
Daniel,
Hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah, you look. It looks like you're back.
Yeah, I just actually got a message. I got a message that said you have a slow connection. Oh my gosh. Maybe it says if I hide the webcams, then maybe you can hear me better.
Okay, do that.
All right. How do I sound now?
You sound good.
I do. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do it this way then. Right. So here we have two different versions of Gemini rising that are in service to spirit. You know, the healer Gemini and the priestess Gemini. That would be a way to put it. And then we have the visionary, different than quote normal and revolutionary Gemini. We're Gemini ascendant. Wow, so much we could say about Gemini rising, but it is in service to spirit. It has to do with the freedom to play any part you want. You know, it's the complete shapeshifter as well as the eternal youth expression of our journey. Is this what you were wanting me to do, Cayelin?
No, I had a message from Rhonda. I need to. So basically, I have the correct chart here. She's saying she's Leo rising, not Capricorn rising, and she was saying she had but actually she's Leo rising with a Capricorn job, so it's just flipped. And I had her old chart, so I was just double checking, and I forgot my screen was seen, so I was just trying to look at it.
Oh! Right. So she was noticing that we had the wrong thing there.
Yeah, it's she's actually, because we had an old chart for her. I have her old chart printed up, and she's Leo rising with the Capricorn job. So we'll just add her in when we get to that part.
Well, anyway, by giving some of these different examples, it's just pulling up some of the basic material. I'm wondering if we should go through every one of them, or
Well, yeah,
should
just a brief. I think just a brief description so people can get a sense of what how the different jobs work in the different tribes, because that's a really great teaching.
Okay. So the emphasis for the Gemini risings is to investigate the mystery school of Gemini. We could say that all life questions, at least generally, can be applied you can get the answer generally by applying it to the rising sign. Then when you know what version of the rising sign it is, it really clarifies it. So if it's the Virgo job in the Gemini tribe, then it's really about sacred work. If it's and Pisces is very similar. It's being in they're both in service to spirit. They both have to do with helping and healing. I love that combination, both of them, Pisces and Virgo in Gemini rising, as being associated.
Whoops, we lost you, Daniel.
Daniel, you've been...
About high. You lost me?
Yeah, you're back now.
Jeez, just a minute. Is anybody on the internet? Oh gosh. Oh, this is so frustrating. Why did it happen like this today?
We're still in Mercury retrograde.
I'm going to try something here to see whether it might have something to do with my pop phone. All right.
Okay. Okay. So Rhonda, I know you're on the line, and I'm just going to just say that your North Node house is actually the 10th house. So it's the Capricorn job in the Leo tribe. I don't know why you think it's the 4th house.
Maybe it's because she's the South Node.
Yeah, maybe she's, because that old chart, I don't know. But anyway, the new chart, it is in the 10th house. So it'd be the Capricorn job in the Leo tribe, which is the opposite of what she thought it was.
No,
So that means we have 3 Leo risings and 3 Capricorn risings.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and I have to. I need to print out her chart again, because I was just going for my printed charts, forgetting that I didn't have hers updated. Oops. So my excuse is Mercury retrograde. So Daniel, are you gone? Are you coming back? What's going on with you?
hear everybody perfectly.
Okay. Oh, you sound better, actually.
Oh, you do hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm using a different system. I'm using the microphone, not my pop phone, and keeping the video off.
Okay. Let's see if that works.
All right. I can see everything and hear everything really nicely right now.
Good.
Okay. So meanwhile, we're looking now at the Cancer risings, of which we have 5, and all different jobs actually, which is very interesting. So that could be a good old Cancer rising teaching in and of itself, because we have the visionary Cancer, we have the
That's Aquarius job.
yes, we also have the very similar, the Sagittarius job in the Cancer tribe, taking Cancer to where it's never gone before. The Scorpio Cancer is the one who wants to make absolutely certain that that Cancer mystery school is totally 100% done right. You know, it's like I have we're going to make sure that everybody is safe and secure. And
Relentlessly creating safe space.
yes, nice. And then we have the warrior of Cancer, Aries, you know, which, I mean, the Aries Cancer combination, which when it shows up as lineage, when it's lineage, then it's like the most black and white version of householder, you know, like the ones that went in the covered wagons out to the west and created, you know, new communities. But boy, when it shows up for current life purpose, and this is one of the few men in our group, Levi, the warrior of creating safe space. You know, the build.
So Daniel, we just lost you again. I don't know if you can hear me.
Family.
So whatever you just said about the you said warrior and then you cut out.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know why this is happening like this today. Maybe you're right about Mercury retrograde, Cayelin.
Well, we can blame it on that.
Geez, I mean, last time, and I'm even here in Manila, that's allegedly the fast internet, so this is extremely frustrating. So what about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound good.
Okay. And then we have the Taurus job in the Cancer tribe, which is the pleasure of making everyone feel good. The pleasure of taking care of everyone. So anyway, these are like different versions of the purpose of Cancer. And in short, the purpose of Cancer is to provide nourishment in a responsible way for the amount of time it takes for a seed to grow to its fulfillment, to its maturity. And then we have, what, 2 Leo risings?
Actually 3, because Rhonda's also Leo rising. She's the one that we got the new birth time for.
She has the same as Judith.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 2 Capricorn jobs in the Leo tribe. Well, the purpose of that is that in the long run to become the elder or the expert of Leo. That's the Cancer one. You know, it's like the one who knows the most about it. What I've noticed over the years is that people who have the Capricorn job of any tribe is describing the distillation of wisdom over the course of a lifetime, so that by the time you get to the end of your life, you could say, yes, I am the elder expert of that particular mystery school. And then you end up being the teacher of it. You know, the teacher of radiant radical self-love, the teacher of how to create, to be creator for its own sake. And then the Cancer job would be the individual in the Leo tribe who is actually making a safe space for everyone to be everything they can be, which is what the Leo Rising School is about, which is to model for the world our connection to divinity. And if you're the Cancer job, well, then your gift to the world, to provide nourishment to the world, is through your radiance. Okay, then we have only 1 Virgo rising, the Gemini job. Well, this actually then reminds us of Robin, who had the Virgo job in the Gemini tribe. So here we have the curiosity and the multiple expressions, the shape-shifting, the diversity, the fun and play and curiosity around literally every possible version of sacred work that exists on the planet. and the desire to network it and share it, you know, where Virgo rising is, I think. And
have it be fun and playful, not too serious.
The fun of having a calling.
Yes.
In the last, as we are now approaching the time of Jupiter coming up to be with Virgo, which will be a main theme from August of this year onward, I keep noticing another one of the main flavors of Virgo rising, which is the resistance, a commitment to never sell out, to absolutely make certain that what one is doing is their calling. I think more than any other rising sign, that's really what Virgo rising is about. So to be able to just fall into line with doing what the world says you're supposed to be doing just doesn't work. No, it's the sacredness of one's calling. All right.
Ultimately, they wouldn't find fulfillment in selling out or doing what they think they're supposed to be doing. They need to. The fulfillment comes when they find the work that's theirs to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we have, is this possible? Do we really have 3 Libra risings? How about that? Okay. And so we have the Scorpio job me, the Libra job Lynn, and the Leo job Emma. The purpose of Libra rising is to be the inventors, the trailblazers into how collaboration and equal partnerships and correct mirroring and the elevation of the personal to a level of spirituality, really, to honor personal relationship. And in particular, the type of personal relationship where there are sustainable bonds over a period of time. Hence, it's difficult to have collaboration without that. So how well a person is doing with that in their life depends on where they've come from. I mean, most people with Libra rising are newcomers to the concepts of collaboration. This is something, Cayelin, I was thinking about that we do have to remember to emphasize here in this class is to say a few things about the other angles. So like if an individual has their midheaven, I mean the midheaven has to do with right livelihood. So Libra could apply to that also. Just in a work relationship, for example, not just our love life. And the kinds of relationship that Libra has to do with is collaborative ones, not lone wolf, not hired gun, not boss, not employee, but rather an equal collaborator. That would be the essence of it there. So the Leo job is the one who out of confidence and independence. I mean, the Leo job in the Libra tribe, in order to get to Libra, you have to be autonomous in order to get there. The Scorpio job in the Libra tribe, me, is that I'm going to, you have to be really careful about this, I'm going to force everyone to make sure that we have every place on the wheel for everybody. And if somebody does not agree with that, well, too bad. You can't. You can see the possible shadow there. So the Scorpio job in any tribe is actually the one who's most likely to call out the shadow, or to expose the shadow, or have the shadow of the mystery school. So I mean, just to speak personally, as the Scorpio job in the Libra tribe, in my earlier years, it's like, wow, I know I care about relationships so much. What's the shadow of that? Well, you're a bad partner because you will not do what I want you to do. Because clearly, by definition, I'm the expert. Well, later in my life, I discovered that no, Libra rising means I'm a beginner, and I'm having to really learn from square one what really collaborative personal relationship is really all about. And then, like for example, Lynn, and I wanted to there's something about Lynn's contribution that I want to give stronger emphasis to a little bit later. But most people with Libra rising, and particularly if they have the Libra job in the Libra tribe, are going to be coming from a lineage that was exactly the opposite. So if you have the Aries South Node, that's lone wolf. I'll do it all myself. I don't know anything about collaboration. And then if it's the Libra job in the Libra tribe, then it's like I cannot learn anything more about myself on my own. It's through equal partnership that we learn. One thing is that when it's the Libra job in a tribe, and I'm noticing, Cayelin, on our on this matrix,
Mm-hmm.
there's only two
Yes.
Libra jobs.
Yes.
There's Priya and me.
Right.
And,
well, two Libra jobs, Lynn and
I mean Priya and Lynn. Sorry.
Yeah.
And which so there's only two that we can this principle would apply to, but it's if you come from the Aries job, that is radically the opposite of moving toward the Libra job. The Aries job from the past is the wondrous development of autonomy, which is a great thing depending on the chart. You know, a lot of people, that's what they're working on. But if it's the Aries job from the past, it's what they've already done. So then if it's the Libra job now, it's like, wow, I can't learn anything more about myself on my own. I've got to discover what it's like to be mirrored accurately by another person, or to learn more from other people.
You know, something that's fascinating, too, about this, Daniel, is that both Lynn and Priya have Gemini moons as well. So this is really new territory for them.
And actually, Cayelin, in this discussion right now, it brings up one of the other central points I had wanted to make as part of this class, which is the distinction between those, and I think everybody in the class should be able to see what I'm going to be talking about right now based on their own charts now. Some horoscopes are mere modifications. Like current life is just like continuing on with, just with minor modification as to what a person has been before. And then other horoscopes are examples totally at the other end of the spectrum of extreme contrast, working on something radically different, like almost in some cases like an entirely different universe. Why would I have done that? Take on something fresh or new. I don't think the astrologer themselves can answer that question. I mean, you might be able to get an answer to that in your own life, but if you're doing a reading for somebody, you can't really know why they made those choices. But once they have made the choice, then that's the one that they've intended, and that's their life. That's what they're going to be committing to developing a relationship with. And we can have a great deal of compassion for a client or for ourselves if what we're working on is something entirely different than what our skill set had been in the past. So that these are examples of that actually here. Mm-hmm. Now, we arrive at the 4 Scorpio ascendants, all different jobs. The short definition of Scorpio rising is having the courage to go to the edge of aliveness for its own sake. Well, the Taurus job is to see the pleasure of that, to savor it. The Virgo job is to turn it into sacred work. This one's sacred work is taking aliveness, taking this movement toward Ananda, life force, Tantra, and passion as having something to do with the sacred work. The Leo job in the Scorpio tribe, well, you know, what does that remind us of? Let's go back to Taurus rising. Was there not someone in our group who had the Scorpio job in the Taurus tribe, right? Mm-hmm. Well, here we have the Taurus job in the Scorpio tribe. We also had, back in the Taurus rising, we had the Leo job in the Taurus tribe, and here we have the Leo job in the Scorpio tribe. So I'm just bringing those little similar kind of patterns there. Mm-hmm. So we have Scorpio Taurus with Caroline, Scorpio Taurus with Cayelin. And that, yes, okay. So then with the Leo job in the Scorpio tribe is again like active, powerful, solar feminine version of the Shakti priestess. Same thing with the Sagittarius job. It's also solar feminine. To take Scorpio where it has never gone before. The explorer, visionary, adventurer, philosopher of Scorpio. Scorpio is a spiritual path, we could put it that way. Then we get to our one and only Sagittarius rising, Priya, the Libra version of it. looking for trail mates, looking for quest mates, the joy of sharing the journey with a like-minded other. Then we have 4, Capricorn rising.
Actually, Rhonda is the one that's Leo rising.
Okay, sorry, I did not adjust that. Right.
Yeah,
So she's the, is it the Capricorn job in the Leo tribe then, right?
Yeah, she's the opposite. Yep.
Yeah, so that's the same as Judith then.
Right.
Where the goal is to become the expert, the elder, the teacher of Leo, of the things of the Leo Mystery School. And in our Capricorn risings, then we have 2, Andrew and Eric, the pleasure, the joy, the savoring, and of managing, of holding things together, of assisting the earth and sky in working for the generations to follow, and the pleasure of doing that, actually. A double earth there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ross, another Capricorn rising, the visionary, to boldly go where no one has gone before, taking Capricorn into new territory. If you're getting the flavor of this, you can see the jobs are the same, really, whether it's the 3rd movement of the symphony or the 1st movement. The 12 jobs are essential to this in this system. Fundamental, foundational. And then we have our 2 Aquarius risings. We have the Capricorn version of Aquarius, and at this stage of the game, the Capricorn job is the elder, the expert, the one who's taken Aquarius further. I think that the Capricorn job in the Aquarius tribe would be the one.
Wait, it's Pisces, Daniel. Pisces job in Aquarius tribe.
What did I say? I'm looking at
Capricorn.
I know, but I'm looking at the handout.
Connie and Jennifer are the 2 Aquarius risings, and Connie has the Pisces job and Jennifer has the Sagittarius job.
Well, here we have an anomaly. I was looking at the thing I printed out.
Oh.
And on the printout that you sent me, Connie has Capricorn job in the Aquarius tribe. So I'll stop looking at that and I'll look at the screen. Okay. Yes.
Oops.
All right. So
I'll just
sorry
double
about
check
that.
that too while you're doing this. I'm going to double check it. Make sure.
Yeah, well, so the purpose of Aquarius rising is to explore consciousness for its own sake, to be the eye behind the eye, to be the eagle, to see the biggest possible view, to have unfettered freedom, to see every possible avenue that's available, and to have the freedom to walk down those roads. So the Pisces job person is the one who is doing it as a service. It's like the Kuan Yin combination, the Pisces job and the Aquarius tribe. Empathy and spaciousness together. And the Sagittarius version of Aquarius, again, we mentioned the Sagittarius job just a few minutes ago. And there seems to see we have a fair number of Sagittarius job folks. Anyway, it's the philosopher, explorer, adventurer, traveler of Aquarius. Let's see all the possibilities available, not only in consciousness, but in all the places we can go on the planet. Sagittarius job in the Aquarius tribe. And then last but not least, the Leo job in the Pisces tribe. That's the solar feminine, actional, loving, radiant, creator version of Pisces. Where the purpose of Pisces rising is to figure out, to discover at this time in history, how can we help and heal others? How does healing actually happen? And certainly if a person has the Leo job in the Pisces tribe, the last thing you're going to want to do, in fact, we could say the contribution of this combination, the last thing you're going to want to do is to take on somebody else's suffering. You know, the Leo job is really an emphasis on maintaining your own boundaries. And actually, it brings up the issue that we could have brought up on Connie, the Pisces job in the Aquarius tribe. Having compassion, having the capacity to tune into where grief, sorrow, and suffering on the planet is, but not feeling like we have to take it on or it's our responsibility. We maintain our own boundaries. We give those who are suffering permission to have their own predicaments while we do certainly care. So it's not a thing of being just utterly not caring. It's like a combination of those two. All right, that's just a little taste of it.
Yes, and Daniel, I just want to say Emma typed in that she said that this is making a lot of sense and she thinks she sees it now, so it was very helpful. And I'm sure other people have found that to be helpful too. So.
Now, just since everybody has the put up the Jupiter ones, we can just mention that one for the moment.
Jupiter, where are you? Right here. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right. So look how many Sagittarian Jupiters. I like that. In fact, look. Out of this class, we have 4 Aries, 3 Leo, 6 Sagittarius.
Yeah, you're cutting out again, Daniel. So just, I didn't quite hear you say it, but I think you said 3 Leo, 4 Aries, 3 Leo, and 6 Sagittarius. So the predominance of where Jupiter is in this class is in fire.
Right.
Yeah.
The mystery schools associated with fire. So what Jupiter is telling us is a person's way of life, their dharma. In some ways, it could say what yoga does a person practice, or if you ever get stuck in your life, remember where your Jupiter is. So if you have Jupiter in Sagittarius, it would be time to have an adventure. That's why we call it the planet of the vision quest. And Sagittarius and Jupiter have the closest resonance. If it's in Scorpio, then, well, you know, it occurs to me, rather than giving every example here, now that you all have a sense of the script material, as we go through the in-depth teachings on the 12 mystery schools, you'll just be able to always keep going back to the script and see how this fits into your own storylines.
Right.
You know, so rather than going through each one of these and describing what the meaning of each Jupiter is, you have the information here, and it's woven into the third movement of the symphony. Okay, now, before we look at some of the individual questions, I wanted to, hopefully I'll still be coming through here, to look at the other angles.
Oh, right. And we probably ought to talk a little bit, too, about the nodes. Oh, this is planets to the south node. She's supposed to say planets to the north node. But look at that, too, just to give a quick sense of what that's about for people.
Okay, okay. Right, so all 4 angles are so important individually. I mean, a lot of people aren't aware of this, and this also would have to do with why the ascendant is the most important. What's coming up over the eastern horizon used to be the most important factor that astrologers would look at. In fact, the word horoscope meant the ascendant. So if you had a birth time, you knew it was coming up over the ascendant, and so we're emphasizing that here. I mean, the storyline for current life purpose, personal identity project, rising sign. And then its opposite, descendant, is what is used when we are putting our full attention on partnership and relationship. And actually we have a whole training the relationship training and the sacred marriage workshop, which is emphasizing strongly that part of the script. So the Descendant is the mystery school about how we approach partnership and relationship for current life intent. Then the Midheaven is called the Right Livelihood Project. Now that doesn't mean it's supposed to say what job you are supposed to have, but rather it's the mystery school through which you do right livelihood. It's kind of like a creative fantasy that would stand behind right livelihood. So for example, whatever your job is, whatever your calling would be, and whether your life story is about having a calling or simply having a successful career to support a family, the Midheaven sign gives the clue about how to do it. So for example, if you're a singer, you really are a singer. That's your job. Depending on what sign is on the Midheaven, you would do it in different ways. If a singer has a Libra on the Midheaven, maybe it's because you want everyone to like you, or you want to make everyone happy, or to form that personal connection with everyone in the audience. If you're Leo Midheaven, it's because you clearly are wanting, you see yourself as being the star, the vision carrier. If it's Aquarius on the Midheaven, it's because you want to do music to simulate the thoughts of God. If it's Scorpio, however, on the Midheaven, the reason you be a singer is because when you sing, it induces orgasm. So, I mean, there's different reasons for why we would do what we do. So, like, if we use any example here, if you are a writer and Scorpio on the Midheaven, it's got to be something that turns you on. I'm just giving you just flavors to it. So if we were doing a workshop entirely about right livelihood, then we would be mainly talking about the Midheaven, less so than the rising sign. And then the bottom of the chart is your home and roots, and that's both internal home and roots as well as the decisions and choices we make in our life regarding where we actually live. Whether we're a traveler, whether we're going to connect with just one place for our whole life. But if we combine those two, the Midheaven and the home and roots, it sort of translates out as, what do you do and where do you do it? Just as the Ascendant is, who am I? And the Descendant is, yeah, well, who's that over there? And then our different ways of relating ourselves with others. So that's a general flavor on the angles, and again, it's all part of the third movement. Am I still clear?
Yes, you are.
Oh, good. All right. So then, as far as the planets near the nodes, in this case, the planets near the North Node, it's rather than being a description of some of the special features of the individual from their past, like Saturn on the South Node. If you were the novelist, you'd be writing about the individual who was probably pretty sort of serious and seemed to know what they were talking about and took themselves seriously and were somewhat of a teacher. That's how you would describe that character. If the Saturn is on the North Node, then it's somewhat equivalent to having the Capricorn job. That your mission and purpose statement is to learn what works, what the rules are, what teaching is, what the operating manual is about, and it would tend toward being something a bit more practical and responsible and serious than certain other positions. So it's giving a brushstroke flavor to the intent. So whatever planet happens to be near the North Node is giving that additional clue as to what your purpose is. If you have Mercury on the North Node, well then, yeah, there's an emphasis on the version of mind that you came in to use. If it's Mars there. Then there's going to be this this like a strong presence. There's going to be this actional component. There's going to be this animus, the different ways we would understand animus, the masculine principle attached to your life purpose. At these time periods now in history, for women who happen to have Mars on the North Node, it frequently, do we have it here? Yeah, Caroline, Diane, maybe. That's actually bringing in the qualities that until recently might be considered to be, by the average psychologist, masculine. But we're not really looking at it as a gender thing here at all. So that's like saying for Caroline and Diane, it's to take that on, to become more like that, more animus-based. Jupiter on the North Nodes, to be someone who inspires others, like a generous flavor, a boon and a benefactor to others. Same imagery that we looked at before, except now it's attached to current life purpose. Neptune on the North Node, like for Beau and Robin, that the life purpose path includes an interest in things that are more mystical and less practical, which, since it's on the North Node, it's intended to be like that. That's the whole point of the life, is to make sure that it's oriented more toward the mystic than just a solid bottom line, how much money am I making kind of thing. And look how many Saturn North Node we have in the group. Now, if you got it 16, 17 degrees, it can be a characteristic you can add if you like, but if you go back to the stuff we said at the beginning, this is less important than the understanding of the storyline itself. And the planetary placements to the nodes get way more important the closer they are to being an exact conjunction. If you're looking at a outer planet that happens to be, beyond 10 degrees, it's just like a, well, geez, the person's 6'4" or are they 6'2"? It's more like that. It's not. It's nowhere near as powerful if it's like a 1 degree conjunction, with Mars or Venus or Mercury. So I think it's probably enough on that.
Could you just comment on the angles? Because some people had the nodes on their angles, like the North Node on the Ascendant, or the North Node on the Descendant, or the North Node on the Midheaven, or the North Node on the IC.
Yes, certainly. When you have those features, when you have the features that are most associated with the third movement together, it is such a remarkably articulate set of clues. There's no ambiguity on it. It kind of reminds me of when you have a transit of the North Node to the Ascendant. It's utterly and completely progressive. Give me an example of which one you mean.
Well, Connie and Levi both have the North Node on their Ascendant. Connie is Aquarius rising, and the North Node is actually in Capricorn, but only 4 degrees away, or 5 degrees away. And then Levi, where are you?
Yeah. Oh, I see it now. Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just it is the most profoundly clear set of instructions, because we're dealing with the angle that changes every 4 minutes, and then we're looking at the node, which is so much connected with the intention of the soul. So when you've got the node, the North Node, on an angle, it's difficult for me to imagine a more clear-cut instruction that can come from great mystery as to what we're here on the planet to do.
So you're
You know,
saying,
so
say for example, like Levi is Cancer rising with the North Node conjunct within 3 degrees. So it's like emphasizing Cancer rising for him. That this is really important. Like it takes
right.
it to another octave of importance. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
the same thing would be for the midheaven. So say somebody has the North Node on the midheaven, and actually Katie has that, and her midheaven's in Pisces. The North Node's almost less, about 2.5 degrees away from her midheaven. So, and plus she's got the sun on the midheaven and with the North Node as well. So that would seem like that's really emphasizing that, right?
Well, and actually, what's really intriguing, because I've never really considered this quite this way before, these are examples, really, of why we're emphasizing this as the leading edge anyway. So here's individuals, I mean, you know, the leading edge of our interpretation is the house position and the rising sign. So here we have individuals where it's where the conjunctions are happening with it, you know, where the node is in the house and close to the angle. Wow, it's a super punctuation point on what is the bottom line feature of the system anyway.
It really means there's no ambiguity then, you know, that this is really what you're here to do. You know, at a higher, maybe more intensified octave than somebody who wouldn't have that. It's just a really clear path.
Right. In fact, the examples there of the angles and the nodes together is really like the summation statement of why we use this system. I mean, it's the combination of the for the third movement of the symphony, it's the combination of the ascendant and the house position of the nodes. I mean, it's fundamental. You can see the difference between that and the moon and the node. But here we have the central feature of the third movement, is the north node and the angles, particularly the rising sign.
Daniel, somebody's asking the question saying these are just conjunctions, right? So I'm imagining that maybe the rest of the question would be, you know, if people have the nodes square the angles, or like say the ascendant descendant, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the conjunction.
No, no. As a matter of fact, and this is a somewhat of a controversial issue, and when I teach when I teach shamanic astrology, I try to take people away from squares to the nodes. There's a great deal of research on this. I was influenced by a couple of astrologers that were looking at the nodes as a wave function. They're not points, you know, they're not.
Daniel, you're just cut out, and so I'll just kind of complete that sentence till you get back. So basically, the nodes are points in space. They represent where the moon is crossing north and south of the ecliptic, and when the moon, the sun, and the earth all line up on that same point, then we have an eclipse. So they're movable points. They're not actually holding a specific energy like a planet does. You're back?
Did I come back?
Yeah, you're back.
What a fascinating, that just energy and power surges happening here. Yeah, so let's my opinion would be just forget about
Squares.
Squares or trines or to the nodes.
Right. So and a couple of other questions. Chris wants to know how Vesta and Chiron would affect the North Node, affect life purpose. And Maggie wants to know how the moon conjunct the North Node affects life purpose, like the lineage past and the new intent. And
Right. Okay, so Chiron was discovered in 1977, and after working many years with Chiron, we are including it as a script. We use it in the script. We particularly use it as the planetary function for aspects, for cycles. And we're doing the same thing for Vesta. now. That's just a new thing that's happened in the last year. I will say, gosh, I'm going to probably have to give you a little bit of philosophy on this. I came from the time period in the astrological Renaissance when the big four asteroids first started to be used. It happened at the same time as the beginning of the women's movement. And the fact that they were named after the goddesses was really important. It overrode the patriarchy of mainstream astrology. But then I noticed people kept adding more and more and more and more and more asteroids, particularly as more ephemerises became available. And then you got to this point where you could prove literally anything by just saying, well, gee, there's a square to the, some minor aspect, some asteroid. You can put anything asteroid on there if you want. There's like thousands of them you could put on the chart. So for me, I was looking at what would be, how do you make astrology work with the least number of objects so that by having wide orbs you get meaning rather than adding too many things. So what I did for many, many years is to have Vesta be the ruler of Virgo, not Mercury, and to actually include the imagery of Ceres as part of that, a part of Virgo also. You can actually add the meaning of these asteroids to, and we'll talk about this more when we get to the mystery schools. Very, very important when we do that. But over a period of time, we now have been researching with Vesta and Ceres, but not enough that we're going to include it in this basic script material. We're including Chiron because it adds something that nothing else, that nothing else in the script will give us. But we're not adding too many bodies at this particular point. So for the purpose of our understanding here in this class, don't put your attention on Ceres in particular, or Pallas, or some of your other favorite ones. I do understand. I'm not being critical of the use of these by people that are specializing in using these bodies, but we're trying to come up with the most basic themes of the life's journey, and then at a certain point, these other bodies can offer punctuation points. And kind of Vesta's right in the middle right now, and there actually may be a bonus class that happens in our course that will be about Vesta, because Vesta is sort of coming in now more than it had been for a long time. Up until recently, I included the Vesta mysteries into Virgo. So that's the story on that.
Virgo. So it would be like adding, as an aspect of the sacred, if it's part of the North Node, that the person would be wanting to include that in their life. And just another point, Daniel, I think this is kind of what you said, but just to maybe say it a little differently, is that a lot of these things, in terms of the very basic script that we're working with here, it really is it's like a hologram. And in the hologram, you can take any one part of that hologram and get all the information. So this is the just most basic hologram. And I often like to share that I studied with Erin Sullivan when she was living in Tucson some years ago, and we'd be looking at charts, and people in the class would be coming up with all these crazy configurations of things to come up with an interpretation, and it would just make my head swim. And I would listen to what they came up with, and then I'd think, well, you could tell that just by the fact that Pluto's conjunct the moon, or some factor like that, or that they were Leo rising, or with the Scorpio job, or whatever it might be. There was very simple things that would tell you the same information. So we don't need to make it really complicated. We can keep it simple, and the basic information is in this simple, in these basic pieces that we're giving you right now. And so there's people who love to add minutia, detail, other factors, and so on, and there's nothing wrong with that, but what we're trying to do is teach you a very simple system that will give you everything you need. And then if you want to add to that later, that's great.
Yeah, one thought about that. Thank you, Cayelin, on that is that we used to have an in-person course that we would do every year called the Advanced Chart Analysis Intensive. And people would think, that means now we're going to be talking about sesquiquadrates or semi-sextiles, or, we're going to now talk about 25 asteroids. No. Actually, it was to go deeper into the script material and to go deeper into the timeline material, which is in the second course that we'll be offering a webinar on. So it's not to add all these other features. It's fine to use the other features as long as it doesn't take you off the main point, which all too often in the mainstream astrological community, it's what it does. So we're trying to keep the structure, and I am a Capricorn moon, and okay, it's a structure here, but it works. And
I just want to say this structure is so incredibly brilliant, and as somebody who kind of went to look at what other people were doing, because I just, once I learned this, I'm like, I'm curious, and I got readings from other astrologers, and they are all over the place. And if I didn't know something about it, I wouldn't have any idea what they were talking about. And so this structure works. You follow the structure, you're going to give a person a good reading. You don't really have to be, an expert or have done this for lots of years. You can go out once you've completed this course, you can go out and give a good reading to somebody and do a lot of good for them using this structure. It is brilliant. And
even if you don't know what the minor aspects, or if you don't know about some asteroid that they bring up, or I made all these mistakes. I mean, back when I first started, I used to give 4-hour readings, and I wanted to make sure that I would tell everything I possibly knew to that person, because I guess I was convinced that there was going to be this voice that would come down from heaven. You haven't told me about my third house yet. So as my own response was to wait a minute, I get to be able to see what's really important here. Besides, nobody ever really would ever say that anyway. It's all in my own head.
That was all in your head, yeah.
Yeah, so we're simplifying it, but by no means does that mean that we are making it superficial.
Oh gosh, no. And I mean, it's so powerful for people, and I know you have this experience all the time, Daniel, but people will say when they get a reading, it's like, that makes so much sense, I finally get it, thank you so much. Because when you follow the structure, you give them gold. You really do.
And plus the thing that needs to be woven in all the time, which is we're making no judgments, good or bad.
Right.
We're actually giving people permission to really be themselves, to be mirrored accurately, which is what most human beings, even from their parents, maybe even say particularly from their parents, didn't have that joy, didn't have that privilege of actually being mirrored accurately.
Right. So a couple of questions still. Maggie wants to know what it means to have the North Node with the Moon, which is an interesting combination. And then Rhonda's asking about conjunctions to the North Node. So what about oppositions to the North Node? And of course, if something's conjunct one node, it's going to be opposite the other node. Or if the nodes are conjunct one angle, like the ascendant, the south node will be with ascendant.
Yeah. If you're talking about the angles, it's a situation where it's like 51%, 49%. So I mean, if the north node is on the ascendant, the south node is automatically on the descendant, and it's energizing, activating the entire axis. But if we're looking at the other kinds of conjunctions, the other places this operates, like north node is conjunct Saturn is conjunct the North Node, we're not really concerned about the South Node at that point.
Right. And then and Maggie's question says, you know, the North Node conjuncts the Moon, which is the lineage past, and then how does that influence the new intent?
Yeah. So it's really saying that in some ways it's kind of like a person who has the Moon and the rising sign the same sign, which would be, I think we determined there wasn't anyone like that in no one had that in our class. So if the Moon is with the North Node, then it's really bringing, it's not the elimination of the Moon. It's like the Moon is coming along to be of assistance, which is the case that's going to be true on all charts. The Moon is in support to current life purpose, and this is just emphasizing that for sure that person is going to be using their Moon. They're not to forget about their Moon. This kind of reminds me, Cayelin, of Lynn's question.
Yes, right.
So which we could, why don't you bring that one up?
Okay, I will do that.
On the screen.
There we go. Here it is.
Do we really move from our Moon to the mystery school, or do we include the highest vibration of that planet, I think she's referring to the Moon there, to assist us in the mystery school? There's one other school of astrology that kind of looks at the Moon the same way we do, and that's and the rising sign the same way we do, and that's the esoteric astrology. What they do, even though their view of the rising sign is nearly identical, their view about the Moon is, well, the Moon is dead, it's past, it's old, there's nothing about the Moon we should be connected to at all.
And the Moon doesn't have anything growing on it, so it's literally dead.
Now we don't, that is not the approach here. The Moon is our foundation. The Moon is who we used to be. The Moon is our lineage, and so on. It's our skill set. On the shadow dark side, yeah, it's what we could become too over-identified with. But the goal is not to eliminate our connection to the Moon, but to get the Moon to work for the third movement, to have the Moon be in support of the themes of current life purpose. The only time it might feel like, maybe emphasizing in her question, do we really move from the Moon? Well, if a person is too over-identified with the Moon, well, then there could be a certain time period where it's like, let it go. There are time periods when I'll do a reading for someone who their whole life has been their Moon. There are times in my life where it's like, geez, it's all Capricorn, you know, or it shows up a lot with women who have the giver moons, you know, Pisces moon, Cancer moon. How do you not behave like that all the time, you know, taking care of everybody all the time, particularly since that's something that's supported by the culture. So there's times in a person's life that what they're going through, it sounds like the universe is saying, get over it and do something different, you know, that if you still do your moon, at best it's redundant, at worst it's a generic form of addiction. But in most cases, in a time period of balance in our life, the Moon is there, and we can say the highest vibration of it, yes, because we're not emphasizing anything about the Moon that had to do with, quote, bad karma. I mean, we're not trying to say even a person who's over-identified or addicted to the Moon, that was a bad Moon, you know, you were irresponsible, and that's why you were addicted to your Capricorn Moon, or you had let all your children die, that's why you're identified with your Cancer Moon so much. I mean, to me, that view is completely useless. It just buys into kind of a Christianized version of karma that doesn't do any of us any good. So we're trying definitely to have the highest vibration of the Moon be in support of the current life purpose themes. And in many cases, it's going to, I guess you could say the generalized answer is 1/3. You know, So you'll be your moon 1/3 of the time. But there are going to be some horoscopes where the themes of current life purpose are so similar to the moon that maybe it's more like 45%, as long as the current life purpose storyline is more than 50%. But just in sort of average, it's usually 2/3, 1/3. So I mean, I love the nuance of her question, the way she said it, because it's actually capturing some of the subtleties of it, but at the same time, maybe possibly, well, let's just say that it inspired me to go more deeply into what's actually happening with this.
So just a couple of other things on this too is that some people, as you mentioned, have had no connection to their moon. It's been completely overridden by the culture, the family, whatever. So some of those times, there's times in a person's life where they may need to reconnect, reclaim the gifts that their moon has, so that they can use it to assist them in their current life mystery school. And then the other thought that comes up is that if we lived in a culture that was understood and maybe supported children when they come into the life, that when a child comes in, they're automatically in the place of their moon, and if they got support for that, it would be easier for them to move to something rather than have it be judged or minimized or overused. Like making a Capricorn moon child be the one who's responsible for everything all the time. So we could really have a different experience if we lived in a culture that really knew how to work with this.
Great. Thank you for bringing that up. And here's another example I want to offer. And I've had a lot of clients in the last 6 months where I've had a chance to bring this up. Sometimes a person earlier in their life will have their moon invalidated or violated. Like you use that as an example. It's like they weren't allowed to be their moon. But maybe that individual, when they're 50, will look at their life and say, wow, I know why I wasn't allowed to use the moon, or I set up conditions, because if I still was doing the moon, I would never have done this or this or this. I never would have had a family. I never would have learned to be a giver, or I never would, just 1,000 examples of what they would not have done if they still had been identified with their moon. So then we get to age 55 or 60 or 45 or sometime later in life, and we look at it and say, is it not objectively true? You have done this in your life. Well, there's no reason now to disconnect from the moon. There's no reason at this point to keep it offline. Bring the moon back in. I mean, geez, you had to stifle your Scorpio moon so you could raise a family. Well, how about now you raise your family? The youngest is now 20, and you don't have to take care of them anymore. Get your Scorpio moon back. That's just another example.
So we have one more question, which I'm not quite sure I understand. So maybe if Melissa wants to unmute herself and get on the line, she could. She's saying, I have 23 degrees Gemini in Aquarius and also Uranus. I think what she's saying is that she's 23 degrees Gemini rising with Uranus conjunct. And this is really a question that would go for the planetary complexes class. But I think she's feeling a little confused and not sure, how the nodes work and how that all works. I don't know if you want to speak to that or how that talk about later.
Well, you just actually sort of cracked out on me a little bit there. So is she wanting interpretation of Uranus on the ascendant?
I think so.
Well, actually, we will be, to a certain extent, be able to answer those kinds of questions as we go through each mystery school, because if you know something about Gemini, and then you know that you have Uranus on the ascendant, then it's a way of like blending Gemini and Aquarius. So the short form of that would be the intention in the current life is to be the most unusual, different than normal, revolutionary, and eccentric version of Gemini you could ever possibly imagine being. And that would be a statement of intent.
Yep.
Now that's a little different. I mean, if somebody had Uranus on the moon, or if they had an Aquarius moon, well, then it might have the exact opposite meaning. But here it's a statement of intent.
She actually does have an Aquarius moon. So,
Right.
yeah. But anyway,
Yeah, wherever you were before, just do more of it.
So that's the closest we have to somebody having the same moon and same rising.
True. That's right.
Aquarius.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think we're at our time. I don't see any more questions. So I think we're ready to wrap this up.
Yeah, I hope it hasn't been too distracting. And I guess there have been times that I've been pretty clear, huh?
Yes. Yeah. Most of the time, there's been mostly. I told you when it was not so clear. So.
Yep. Okay. Well, this has been fun. I just again want to thank everybody for their participation and their enthusiasm. And if there's somebody who's not getting what they need from this, please do let us know. We'll do our best.
Yeah, and I think we need to turn this back over to Eric now so he can wrap it up.
Okay.
All right, so I'll take back the screen, as it were.
Back control. I'll give them back to you.
Okay.
It reminds me of the old Outer Limits.
All right, well.
We are now in control of your screen. We control the horizontal.
Yes.
Relinquish control to us now. So this is pretty much completes lesson 6 here. And it also completes a practicum of 3 lessons that had to do with the script and everything but the script. Everything, all about the script. But we're going to be heading right into the archetypes, where there's been a lot of questions about interpretations that are going to go down and talked about in great detail starting 2 weeks from today. There seems to be some feedback.
I think that's Daniel.
It is?
I think it might be Daniel.
Yeah, I think so. It's cleared up now.
But it's clear.
I'm not talking.
Oh. Okay, it's all good.
Daniel, I had to mute you for just a moment. It seemed to put down the feedback for just a few seconds here. So the next lesson 7 will take place in 2 weeks on the 22nd. So I'm just kind of rolling through the credits here. And then, let's see, there we go. So this is all this material is based on the teachings of Daniel Giamario and the founding of the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School over the last few decades. And you can still find a lot more information on our website. And through the online course, we have a special area where you can engage in questions on the forum. The pre-recorded videos for Lesson 7 are now posted on Cancer and Capricorn. And as the weeks roll on, I'm going to be posting more and more of those videos. I've got to do some editing first before doing that. But those 2 are on. And then in early March, we'll be talking about Aries and Libra. So we're going to go through the householder and or culture bearer signs first before we dive into the other parts. So thanks, everyone. Let me unmute Daniel. Daniel, you there?
Yeah. Can I ask you a question, Eric?
Sure.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can.
Are you able to hear me?
I am.
Okay.
Very much.
I got rid of my mic, and I'm speaking directly into the computer right now, trying it this way right now. I just have a question. Is it possible at this stage to make available to the participants, for those who are interested in doing it, it's not a requirement, for them to be able to listen to the previous MP3 recordings?
That's already been done, Daniel. That's already available to them.
Oh, I thought in a previous conversation Eric had told me that he was afraid to not release that because they'd have too much.
Oh, no, that was at the very, very beginning before we even started the lessons. I posted those MP3s back in December.
Cool. Okay. No problem.
Yep.
Thank you. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, not
Thanks
a problem. Sure. Okay. Well, Cayelin, anything?
I think we're good. I just want to say I'm getting thank yous from Sherry and from Melissa and from Judith and Chris and Maggie, all saying it was a great class and very happy. Also Bo. So thank you, everybody. We so appreciate your attention. Thank you so much for participating in the exercises that I've been dreaming up for you to do.
No, it's been very good. Yes.
Yes. And there'll be more, but it really helps us to see where you're at, and also hopefully it's helping you to see where you're at as well. And so thank you. We really appreciate your participation, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks.
Yay. All right, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. See you all later. Bye.